The Rangers are stacking up so many wins after the All-Star break that they said, okay, now let's do a silly one.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Wyatt Langford's speed winning this game in the silliest fashion. Another great outing by Patrick Corbin. Jon Gray returning to the hill. A little bit about Jock Peterson maybe being on the verge of a return, and the Rangers agreeing to deals with almost all of their draft picks. Now, the Rangers won last night, winning 5 out of their first 6 games after the All-Star break, 2-1 in what was the silliest game-winning play I've seen in a long time. And that's mainly because I didn't watch the game this week in Major League Baseball that ended on a walk-off catcher's interference. But this was also spectacularly silly. The Rangers jumped out to a 1-0 lead off of who else but a Corey Seager homer. He gets 2 of the 4 hits, I say in air quotes, in this one, because one double, an RBI double that should not have been a double, ended up scoring the winning run. But Corey Seager stays on fire, but Jonah Heim, on what was the most routine of pop-outs, ends up at second base, and Wyatt Langford ends up at home plate because the A's don't know how to do defense good. It just one of the most abysmal defensive plays of the season. Truly inexcusable defense by the no longer Oakland, West Sacramento, Yolo County A's. And it came off of their probable Rookie of the Year, at least Rookie of the Year favorite to this point, Jacob Wilson, and Tyler Sodestrom, who is a catcher slash first baseman turned DH turned left field because they've got too many catchers or too many first baseman slash DH only players on a ball that was just the most routine pop out to shallow left field. The shortstop, Jacob Wilson, who's been a good defensive shortstop this year, is just ranging back on it, calling for it. I got it. Waves off Tyler Soderstrom. And then at the last second decides, nope, I don't got it. You got it, right? Right after I told you to not have it, which, by the way, the outfielder has dibs on those balls coming in. If they feel like they've got it, they should be calling off the infielder. Now, we saw Corey Seager call off Wyatt Langford and Josh Young in the game literally the day before on a play where Corey Seager ends up making that catch in the Bermuda Triangle of no man's land. And we see Wyatt Langford bounce off of Corey Seager, the 6'5" behemoth of a man. But that's not what happened last night. No, thankfully the ball just drops dead in the outfield. Jacob Wilson trips over himself, then gets to the baseball and makes, honestly, a very valiant effort to get Wyatt Langford at home plate. But alas, Wyatt is too fast, too furious, and scores after walking in a very, very good plate appearance, literally the batter before. Just a great bit of hitting or walking from Wyatt Langford, and a great bit of running from Wyatt Langford, who is a guy who should not be as fast as he is, but is. This man is built like a truck and runs like a Lamborghini. I mean, this guy is just an incredible physical specimen, and shows you why the ceiling is so high on Wyatt Langford as a player, because even though he's been taking some honestly pretty bad at bats lately, he's in the bottom 10 percentile of strikeout rate. His strikeout rate has jumped up way higher than it was last year. He's also chasing a bit more. He's not squaring it up. The bat speed's down a little bit. I mean, just overall, since Donnie Eckers left, the plate appearances for Wyatt Langford overall haven't been great, but he's still been phenomenal in the outfield. He's been phenomenal on the base paths, and that's not just stealing bags. He's got 15 steals so far this season. He's definitely on pace to, beat out his 19 steals last year. But it's plays like this where he uses his speed with 2 outs, the routine fly out, still running, not full on sprinting until he really sees that ball drop in where he's about, 2/3 of the way to third base. He really turns on those afterburners. And when he turns on those afterburners, he is one of the fastest players in baseball. This year, the speed has been down a little bit. He just hasn't had as many competitive runs. I don't think he's just getting slow at the ripe old age of 23. I think he's still got, that elite speed. It's only down a little bit. Last year's in the top 3% of baseball at 29.8 feet per second sprint speed. This year, it's at 28.9 feet per second sprint speed. So down just a little bit, but I think that's more of just the situations that he's had to full on sprint. But this is just what type of wins you get when things are going well. This is not the type of win the Rangers would have had if they played Oakland, not Oakland, in April or May. This was not a team that was firing on all cylinders, that had that kind of quiet confidence to themselves, even after a defensive maybe miscue by Adolis Garcia in right field, deciding to try and throw out Nick Curts at second base on what should not have been a double and normally would be a pretty easy out at second base. Curts is not a fast runner, and so Adolis saw him trying to take that extra base and then throws it to second base, and the runner from first ends up scoring on. If Adolis Garcia would have thrown to the cutoff man, it would have been just the easiest out at home because the runner at first also was not particularly fleet of foot. And then Adolis gets crucified for making that decision, which I think was pretty much the right decision, about 50-50 of whether he should have thrown it to the cutoff man or to second base. I thought that he very easily, most times, I'd say 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 times, would end up getting Curts at second base. And that ends up being the game-tying run and the only run that the A's would score. But the Rangers get a run yet again on a Corey Seager homer, his 15th of the year, that now ties him with Wyatt Langford for the team lead. I mean, this guy has just been on some kind of heater. In his last 30 games, he's got 9 home runs, hitting .316 with an OPS north of 1,059 in a 30-game stretch. At 30 games, that is not a small sample size. Heck, that's nearly half of his season. He's played 71 games so far this season. And in terms of a 150 game pace, he would be at around 30 homers this season for the first 2 months of him being just not very good. He's got 9 of his 15 homers in those last 30 games. He has been just on fire. When Corey Seager gets on fire, he stays on fire, and he can absolutely power this offense. And that's what he did in this one. He powered this offense, giving them a 1-0 lead, which, with how the A's were swinging the bats early on in this game against Patrick Corbin, it looked like that might end up being enough. And it wasn't just the offense that saved this one. It was the pitching staff and the defense, specifically by Michael Hellman, the first batter that Jon Gray faces. He gives up an absolute laser beam with a couple of runners on that could have ended up making this a very different game. But Michael Hellman making a play on a ball at the warning track, diving for it, a beautiful catch, then immediately get taken out of the game because there was a right-handed pitcher on the mound. And the Rangers would rather have Evan Carter face a righty than Michael Hellman. But hat tip to Michael Hellman for having a great week. Some great defensive plays, not just that one, but also that massive 3-run homer, his first big league homer this week. Hellman has been very, very important for this Rangers team over the last couple of days, which is a real bummer because I think he's about to get sent down with some injury replacements that are on the way. But I want to talk about this pitching staff. Jon Gray's first outing of the season, Patrick Corbin yet again with another great start, and Jock Peterson being on the verge of returning. Talk about that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gameday Hue. And this is the hat that I'm wearing for Rangers fans like me. This one hits the mark. This one right here. You may have seen a little bit of a tease to what we're going to talk about in just a sec. But Gameday Hue is great. They make clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile styles that work on game day on the course or anywhere in between. I've rocked this hat all kinds of different places, from playing pickleball to just being out and about the town. Gameday Hue has given me so many cool different hats and all kinds of different stuff. Not just hats, it's also gloves. If you're a big golfer, then you can wear these gloves. Check out their split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at gamedayhue.com. That's gamedayhue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now there's time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's gamedayhue.com, code MLB15. Shout out to everybody for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talking a little bit about the trade deadline, a little bit of a preview there about what the Rangers could and should do at this deadline. I've talked about it a little bit this week, but I'll get more in depth ahead of this weekend series against the Braves, which I will be going to a game this weekend against the Braves. My girlfriend and her family, all Atlanta Braves fans, so I will be outnumbered. Hopefully on Saturday, the Rangers can end up taking that one, and Kumar Rocker having a great day that I can get to watch in person and gloat just the right amount to my girlfriend and her family, because I will be outnumbered 4-1. So hopefully it could be a good enough game that I don't have to gloat too much. I can just let the Rangers do it for me. But speaking of people who need to be gloated on, Patrick freaking Corbin. What a game for him. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, just 1 run allowed on that weird blue double, no walks, 7 strikeouts for him, and just 69 pitches, which was nice. But it also would have been nice if he went a little bit further in this one. The Rangers said, no, this is now a tie game. Patrick Corbin, you have done well, but it is time to rest, because it is time for Jon Gray to come on and make his season debut. And boy, howdy, did he, in a big spot. Jon Gray ends up going 2 innings across the 6th, the 7th, and a little bit into the 8th, getting 6 outs, retiring 6 out of the 7 batters that he faced. The only runner that he allowed was just a single. No walks, no strikeouts, no homers, no swings and misses, and just 1 called strike. It wasn't particularly sharp to start this game, including that first slider that he threw was not particularly great. He did throw more of the four-seam fastball than the slider, which I did not think was really going to be the case when he comes out of the bullpen. But again, this guy broke his wrist not that long ago. I mean, it feels like a long time, but this was the same injury that basically cost Josh Young his entire season. Just a truly terrible injury for Jon Gray to come back into this bullpen and fill a big role. But it wasn't just Jon Gray who is going to fill these high leverage outs. It's also Robert Garcia. It's also Hobie Milner. With Chris Martin on the IL for 4 to 6 weeks with that calf strain, Jon Gray is basically like adding a deadline ad without having to trade anybody. You just call him up. It's like if the Rangers had a prospect that was, on the verge of joining this pen and being a nasty high leverage reliever, except that high leverage reliever also had some experience pitching in high leverage out of the bullpen in, I don't know, the World Series. That's Jon Gray. Now, this outing may not have been particularly inspiring, but he got the job done, which is the most important thing. I think he will only get more and more comfortable in this role. And he was really just thrown completely into the fire right out of the gate. And to make room on the 40-man roster and on the 26-man active roster, the Rangers just designated Luke Jackson for assignment. Luke Jackson, who started this season as the Rangers closer, had a really tough first week, bounced back and was pretty solid for a little while there, and then was less solid, and then was more solid, and then was less solid, then was more solid. It was pretty solid as of late, but in terms of just the Rangers relievers in this pen that the Rangers would just straight up cut bait with, I think that made the most sense. It would be possible for the Rangers to just send Cole Winn right back down to the minor leagues, just option him right back there. But I don't think him pitching in one game and then getting sent right back down is the best use of Cole Winn's talents, because I think he's one of the better relievers on this Rangers roster, at least for the moment. He does have only 6 strikeouts per 9 and is walking a batter every other inning, at least at the pace he's on, but he still has only allowed 1 home run in 18 innings pitched so far this season, and he's got a 150 ERA. The results have been there. I mean, the only pitcher in this on this staff, even on the active, or excuse me, we do still have Kumar Rocker with an ERA and Jack Leiter with an ERA north of 4. But in this bullpen, the only guy with an ERA north of 4 is Caleb Bosley, and there's not even that many guys with an ERA north of 3. It's just Jacob Webb at this point in this pen that has an ERA north of 3, along with Caleb Bosley. That's how good this pen has been. And adding another high leverage guy is just such a massive win for this Rangers team. But Patrick Corbin continues to be very, very good. 19 starts, over 100 innings at this point on the season, and a 3.78 ERA in 19 starts, including a complete game 1-0 loss to his former team, the Nationals. I mean, this guy has just been really good. He has been not just okay. He has not just been serviceable. He has not just been, replacement level. The Rangers signed this guy out of desperation after he was the worst pitcher in baseball for half a decade, where he was pretty darn good before that, but terrible for 5 years. He had an ERA of nearly 6 for a 5-year stretch, and now he has been awesome. Just awesome. He's not the Rangers' best pitcher. He's not the Rangers' second best pitcher. He's maybe the Rangers' third most valuable starter this year. But if you look at WAR, Tyler Mahle, even though he has 5 fewer starts, still is significantly higher in terms of baseball reference WAR, and I think just overall performance. But Corbin has more than done his job, anchoring the back of this rotation, giving the Rangers a start every time they call him up. He goes out there, he gives the Rangers a chance to win in all but basically 2 games this year. He has given the Rangers a chance to win his starts and not gone, 2 innings. He has not put this bullpen in a tough spot. He has been doing the job of what you want a guy who you signed a week before the season started with basically no spring training to just hop in and immediately do. That is a huge scouting and signing win for this Rangers team. $1 million for a guy who's made 19 starts and has an ERA of sub 4 and has 105 innings under his belt. Man, the Dodgers spent so much money on so many pitchers this year who have not added up to what Patrick Corbin has done. There is something there. There's something important about the value of just being available. And Patrick Corbin has been that, even as Nathan Eovaldi and at times Jack Leiter and Tyler Mahle and Kumar Rocker, and thankfully not yet Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom and Patrick Corbin have been the pinnacle of health in this rotation, which is just a wild thing to say, but it has been true, and it has been so darn important. And it wasn't just those guys in this pen. I mean, everybody who pitched in this game was doing their jobs. Toby Milner comes in to face one batter, the toughest batter in this lineup, Nick Curts, and strikes him out on 5 pitches. And he looks really darn good while doing so. Then Robert Garcia comes in. He gets his 8th save of the season. I don't know how he's only had 8 saves so far this season, because it feels like he pitches every other day. But he did it. He did his freaking job. Comes in there, allows a leadoff single, but then works around it, strikes out a couple of really tough A's hitters on some really good fastball. I mean, his fastball looked exceptional in that outing, and the lefties just were not seeing it at all. He has got that funky delivery, and while he may not be throwing 97, 98, 99, the way that he throws it, the way he delivers it, and how it pairs with his changeup and his slider, it is just such a nasty, nasty pitch. And I have absolutely loved Robert Garcia in that closer's role for the Rangers, because he has been doing a fantastic job. But this deadline edition, not quite a deadline trade of Jon Gray, is such a boost for this bullpen that just had a guy go down. But the Rangers have more guys coming back this week. We're going to talk about who and when they're back, as well as the Rangers agreeing to deals with all but 3 of their draftees. We'll talk about why that's important and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts together and puts you in the driver's seat, and it's like having your own personal CFO. It's giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. There's all kinds of different things you can see on Monarch. You can start tracking your savings. And if you're trying to, buy a house, then Monarch is a great app for you. Just kind of putting your finances all in one place, saying, okay, I'm spending too much money here. I need to start saving here. I need to start saving here. Monarch lets you see all of that in one place instead of juggling multiple apps. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Shout out to everybody who's making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. After every single game, the Locked On Rangers postcast, Jeff Biggs is with you in your feed, talking to you live after every single game this season. It is in your Locked On Rangers podcast feeds on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, the Rangers do have some more injury help along the way with Jon Gray returning. The pitching staff is, almost as healthy as it will be for the rest of the season. Chris Martin is the only other guy dealing with an injury who will be back at some point this season. Cody Bradford, alas, we will not see him at all this season, but Jock Peterson, who has been out for the hottest of minutes, particularly about a month or so, with that broken hand that he suffered in San Francisco after being hit by a pitch. He is on the road to recovery. He has been taking batting practice multiple times this week, live batting practice, which was the last hurdle for him to get back and start a rehab assignment. He will start that here very soon with Frisco, who are facing off against the Wind Surge, who are in, I can't remember exact, maybe the Northwest Arkansas Wind Surge. No, the Wichita Wind Surge. So Jock Peterson will be swinging a bat there. It's unclear exactly how many at-bats he's going to need, but from everybody around the team who has been looking at Jock Peterson, seeing what he's been like in those first couple of days of taking BP, he seems to be in just a completely different space mentally, which is ideal. The Rangers need him in a different spot mentally than where he was to start this season, because through 146 plate appearances this year, he has a 507 OPS, just the 2 home runs, and just, man, was he a rough watch. Some of those at-bats were just brutal. I mean, it looked like at times towards the end, before he got hurt, he looked like he was kind of figuring things out. He was able to get his first couple of home runs on the season. He was able to break out of that 41, 42 straight hitless plate appearances, which was just brutal to watch. Actually, I think it was 41 hitless at bats, because he was able to work some walks in the middle of there. But this is a guy who has been an incredibly consistent hitter in this lineup, or in lineups in the past, not this one in particular, for the last 12 years or so of his career. That's one thing he has always done, is hit, and hit right-handed pitching incredibly well. And that's what he did last year at an incredible clip, and what the Rangers were hoping that he ended up doing on this Rangers team. And they spent a lot of money to bring in Jock Peterson, who is on a 3-year deal, has opt-outs after year 1 and year 2. I don't see any scenario where he takes that opt-out after this year. But this is a guy who could be like a trade deadline addition. I talked on yesterday's show about Jeff Passan linking the Rangers to a trade for Marcell Ozuna as a potential target. Not that they are asking or that they are even interested, but that would be a fit for them. And I talked a lot on yesterday's show about why that does not make sense. And a lot of it is because of Jock Peterson, not just Marcell Ozuna being bad for the last 6 weeks as he's playing through a hip injury, not just because of the person Marcell Ozuna is off the field, which I talked about on yesterday's show with the domestic violence incident and the DUI a couple of years back. Not exactly a guy who you feel great about being a positive influence on the clubhouse. But the Rangers already have a DH-only player, and they do not need another one. And if Jock Peterson can come back and look anything near what he's been at times down the stretch for teams, and not just even in the year where he had a down year in 2021, you look at his numbers, they are significantly down across the board with the Cubs. And then the Braves traded for him at the deadline in 2021. He was significantly better for them than he was with the Cubs down the stretch, playing in meaningful baseball games. And this guy has hit so many big runs in October. It's been, I believe, since then that he's made the postseason. He has not made the postseason since 2021, with the Atlanta Braves. Now, I don't know exactly when Jock Peterson is going to come back, but I'm hoping it's within the next week or so, maybe right after the trade deadline is where he'll end up making his season debut, or I guess re-debut with the Rangers. You can just kind of pretend that those first 46 games just did not happen. I'm sure he will choose to pretend like those didn't happen. But this is a big addition to this Rangers lineup that is clicking on all cylinders. And when Jock Peterson comes back, he's not going to be asked to save this Rangers lineup, which I think he was trying to do in the first half before he got hurt. He was trying to save this Rangers lineup with Marcus Semien in the worst 2 month stretch of his career. Corey Seager looking pretty terrible for the first 3 months of this season until this 23 game hit streak where he's been back off the IL a second time. I mean, Seager has looked just unbeatable as of late. And with everybody else just kind of hitting their stride, Jock Peterson can just come back and just be himself and not have to save everything. But there is another bat coming back to this lineup that is going to be back even sooner. Sam Haggerty, who's been dealing with ankle soreness since the All-Star break. He has not played since that All-Star break. He is going to be activated off the IL on Friday ahead of the series against the Braves. I would think that the likely corresponding mood is going to be sending Michael Hellman back down, who has had some great moments, including in this most recent game, that game-saving grab and that 3-run homer that really broke it open for the Rangers earlier this week. But alas, he has not been as good consistently as Sam Haggerty has been for this Rangers team. He has a 105 OPS plus. He has been putting together quality at bats. He has been stealing bases, been playing great defense all around the outfield, and occasionally in the infield, he's been hitting left-handed pitching very, very well, something that this Rangers team overall has not done, and they definitely missed with not having him on this roster. But they're going to be facing a lot of lefties, not just this weekend, but also against the Angels in Anaheim. Basically, I think 3 out of the next 6 games the Rangers have before that trade deadline are going to be against left-handed pitchers. So having Sam Haggerty back and Josh Young back in this lineup is going to be absolutely huge. And oh, by the way, Kyle Higashioka, who has been hitting incredible for his last 15 games, is not going to be on the IL, it seems like at this point. He is dealing with half of a grade 1 hamstring strain, which the grades on those hamstring strain, a hamstring strain is basically the muscle fibers in your hamstring or whatever strain, whether it's a calf strain or things like that. The muscle fibers have torn. Part of the muscle fibers have torn. And the severity of the grade basically means how many of those fibers have torn. And so for a grade 1 strain, it's usually 7 to 10 days that major league players miss on average. Bruce Bochy called it half of a grade 1 strain. So think 3 to 5 days, it seems like at this point, that it's going to take for Kyle Higashioka to be out. So not a full IL stint. And in the meantime, what if something happens to Jonah Heim? What if Jonah Heim has to get taken out of the game or suffers an injury? Well, Cody Freeman is going to be the backup catcher at this point. Cody Freeman, who has played third base, I believe, first base a little bit in his short big league tenure, mostly DH'd. He was a catcher in his development coming up until 2023. And I saw him in Frisco catching. He was fine. He'll be a catcher, but he's not going to be quite the defensive backstop that either Kyle Higashioka or Jonah Heim are. But in terms of an emergency catcher in a pinch, with Kyle Higashioka not wanting to miss his bat for really any more games than they have to, I think this is a great thing to have him on the roster. Otherwise, I would have thought Cody Freeman would have been the one that ended up going down. I don't think that is going to be the case now, especially not with this injury to Kyle Higashioka, because Higgy has been so darn good. They cannot afford to lose basically any time with him on the IL more than they have to. But the Rangers agreed to deals with all but 3 of their draft picks. They went under slot to sign their first round pick by nearly $1 million. They went well over slot for both their second and third round picks. AJ Russell, the second round pick out of Tennessee, the two-way player out of Providence Academy in Tennessee, a high school in Tennessee, Josh Owens, with the third round pick. They went nearly $1 million over slot to sign AJ Russell, who was a righty who was coming back from internal brace surgery. He pitched just a little bit last year, about 29 or so innings, and looked pretty darn good. He's listed at 6'6". He has got a fastball that goes all the way up to 98 miles an hour, and if he was fully healthy for the entire season, he might have been a top half of the first round kind of pick. AJ Russell, that is. But the Rangers were able to go so far under slot with their top pick, Gavin Feen, nearly $1 million under slot, and they went to $2.6 million for AJ Russell. They went with $1.86 million was the allotted slot for that. And with Josh Owens, they went with a $1.1 million bonus, which is a little bit over slot, not quite as far over slot as they went with AJ Russell, about $150,000 over slot. But Gavin Feen, doing that research of taking Gavin Feen, being there, being a guy who, just on talent alone could have gone 12, might have fallen a little bit more, but the Rangers really, really love that bat and the makeup. They also think that he is a shortstop where he was listed as a third baseman, and people thought maybe he'd end up at first base or right field. But the Rangers really, really loved him, and they've earned the benefit of the doubt after some really good drafts the last couple of years. I mean, the Rangers had basically, a franchise history of being pretty terrible at drafting, especially in early rounds. But you look at as of late, they've kind of earned the benefit of the doubt of turning things around. I mean, Wyatt Langford kind of fell into their laps, not exactly a huge scouting win, but still has been significantly better than anyone expected. You look at what they got from that 2020 draft, and especially from Evan Carter. You look at what they've gotten out of Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. They have gotten great results there, and we'll see what Malcolm Moore ends up becoming, but I'm definitely leaning towards this team getting the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they signed everybody in this draft class outside of 3 pitchers, their 13th round pick, their 14th round pick, and their 16th round pick. 13th round, Aiden Robertson out of Walters State Community College, which is where Cole Drake went. Right-handed pitcher in the 14th round, Landon Manzi from Killingly High School in Connecticut. And then Jackson Grossman out of Salt Lake City Community College in Utah with the 16th round pick. None of those guys have ended up signing or are expected to sign, but everybody else, the Rangers did end up signing. They will lose the rights for all those draft picks who they didn't sign, but I think that this is a great use of their draft. I'm assuming that they went a little bit under slot with Ben Abbott, the lefty out of TCU. I'm assuming they went probably a little bit under slot with Mason McConaughey, the right-handed pitcher out of Nebraska. Other than that, I mean, it seems like a pretty interesting draft strategy. The Rangers going about it a little bit differently as opposed to just taking the best player available, which maybe they think Gavin Feen was just the best player available at 12. But going with this kind of a draft strategy, kind of similar to what the Rangers did back in 2022 with Kumar Rocker. They went well under slot for a very high pick and then ended up using that extra money, even though they didn't have second or third round picks that year, to go very, very high bonus on Brock Porter, who I don't really want to talk about right now. He is pitching in relief, and they are trying to find some kind of value after that on that big swing and what looks like a swing and a miss on Brock Porter. But hey, taking 2 big swings at the apple, one of them was Kumar Rocker. One of them seems to have worked out pretty well. The other one, not quite as much, but I really like this draft strategy by the Rangers, getting these 3 guys who are all, pretty highly touted prospects in Feen, in Russell, in Josh Owens. Owens is definitely the farthest away and the most confusing in terms of his upside of what position he'll actually end up playing if he sticks of just one of the 2 positions, of the 2 position player, right-handed pitcher / shortstop / center fielder, I guess technically 3 positions. But the Rangers did a good job of agreeing to these deals, of getting guys who they knew they could sign and using their bonus pool money in the way that they think is best for this draft class. I'm excited to see what these guys can do. Gavin Feen will probably see at some point in the Complex League this year. I doubt we see AJ Russell pitch for the rest of this year. He'll probably start next year. And who knows what's going to happen with Josh Owens, where he'll end up being assigned. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.